ke una we Selecta bil pamake Weye wega bati Yeruli janang bantung gaya Ninya jenge kunye jangu tenge Ajin banda songgaya na jin banda Ajin banda bebe atu yerulawan Yerula ebane koi murian Murian yuit kudang Tongko panalya Wadua dengi tajam Kubai pandang pani jen menyen Alani liara tongko Weye wega bati Yeruli janang bantung gaya Ninya jenge kunye jangu tenge Ajin banda songgaya na jin banda Ajin banda bebe atu yerulawan Yerula ebane koi murian Murian yuit kudang Tongko panalya Wadua dengi tajam Kubai pandang pani jen menyen Alani liara tongko yang undang alejonya ala tong baintal bagira tumbai toni dalwa jamane bunu amen yen baino dong ya benya dalani je danjal madang manga kada bani vida borajwe mangko temu bendida jana pirne dengo yang undang alejonya ala
It's your boy Emmanuel, I give him that thing. Punch all legs stand and punch it America. Banyi doang, ban punch all legs stand and punch it America. Banyi doang, ban wo kojile kankaro watana watching. Oga level gear pow garai leg. Panda wajai punch it America. Banyi doang bano chingatongo pandon kujuera baya cheka. Papu panda juru wajai bi. Panchi America, Panji Duang, Pancha Lakes States.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lakes State Media. My name is Abraham Madid. So my guest Sunday, Emmanuel John, will be here. Emmanuel John will be here shortly. So start sharing the video while we are waiting for him. So he will be here shortly. So play with the music.
We Santo man Kolyan Mike Cholgana one you bring your funding statement yell and a keton yell 00.
Welcome, brother Sunday John. Okay.
Shukran.
Yes. So how you doing this evening? I know it's 10 o'clock, it's late over there. Okay. So guys, start sharing the video. So we will start our discussion. Sunday, welcome to Lakes State Media. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I am all right. I am doing fine. Thank you very much, my
You're
brother
welcome.
Madid,
You're
and
welcome.
the entire Lakes State Media team.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Isaac will join us shortly. So and he will control the show. Well, I'm still in the office, so but it's good that we need to keep the time. So let's go ahead and start our show.
Can you play the songs as we wait?
Yes.
A good song.
Yeah. You know what? Let me share something here. Okay, share that video. Welcome us. So Isaac, can you play the music? What music play on your end? So Isaac,
Yeah.
I start play the music in your end, and to opposite, so I don't want it to come back to this coin my to other side.
All right, it's okay.
Okay, Mangana, send me your WhatsApp and I will send you that song. Okay. Okay. For those of you who are watching, start sharing, and before we start our discussion. So, yeah, Isaac, go ahead and play the music.
Just hang on, give me seconds. We will just break it out here. Yung waden yang do ready again nanga by to the attend very early morning. Kamsa. Buba Benyal. Goodbye. Jammy. You got on live, Mush?
Aye. And that die.
We Santo Malcolm Mike Shorgangawan, you being Yarul Pandi segment yellow and a keton yellow, Zillo, one tornado. I think get out of the walkway. Ayalia Kubi Kapingrin, Jimanalia, Lena Jamara, Majedu, Kagaparandi, Madina Maja, Maku, Kagapan, who I got him, Magarabin, Kegala, Emmanuel, when the I think they keep Karamukaga, the walkway. Ayalia Kubi Kapingrin, Jimanalia, Lena Jamara, Majedu, Kagaparandi, Madina Maja, Maku, Kagapan, who I got him, Magarabin, Kegala, Emmanuel, I think they keep Karamukaga, the walkway. Ayalia Kubi Kapingrin, Jimanalia, Lena Jamara, Majedu, Kagaparandi, Madina Maja, Maku, Kagapan, who I got him, Magarabin, Kegala, Maturo Maker, my will to. Why you Pandit, Pandit Lakes State, Yebarkatala, Good Mogatin, Ali Koti, Yokoi Ponderoy, Yamatela, you are good meat and meat one. Good before you know, Panan, Kayoga, I lay your brain, it's young and the water, watching man and and Baying good, Yeleta Pana. You am a tonner, Jimanatone, Joy, Joy, be tired calling to buy me. What you put you to jog in by the pandemic, which in our dad, I my literature. Jalakabi, Kudaki, Kawil Panan, Kudamu, Warilo, Panan, Kayokare, I lay your friend, the young Yawada, watching money, and you go buying good, Yeleta Panan. Hey, you, Yamatonero, Jimanatone, Joy, Joy, be tired calling to buy me. What you put you to jog in by the pandemic, which in our dad, I my literature. Jalakabi, Kudaki, Kawili Pana, Aga, Yelaka, Aga, Toman, Mayo, Aga, watching money, and what you put you to talking about the pandemic, which in our dad, I my literature. Jalakabi,
Okay. Alrighty. So thank you, guys. Uh, Isaac and Sandy John, welcome to Lakes State Media again. So let us start our discussion. So, Brother Sunday, welcome to Lakes State Media. I would like to give this time to introduce yourself, and we can start our discussion because we have like 4 topics that we will discuss. So, Charles, yours. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, brothers Tieng Paul and Madit Abraham Madit Majak, for hosting me again today. My name is Sunday De John, a South Sudanese, and if we have to go in details, I am from Lakes State as well, and the chairperson of South Sudan United Front Progressive, and currently in Nairobi. Salute the audience as we continue interacting. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. You are welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy John. First, let me start with the breaking news this couple days about the releasing a letter or report from UNMISS about what's going on between the release about Lakes State and Warap. So I would like you to talk more about that. What do you think? What do you think about the document or the report for UNMISS?
I've seen, like many other South Sudanese, a press released by the head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan on the violations of what he referred to as human rights in Lakes State and Warap State, citing the agencies or governments in those states having killed a number of people, totaling over 40 within the last few months. That document was released, although Warab State did not react towards it. Everybody has seen the reaction from the side of Lake State on that line. And I do not know what exactly do you want me to speak about in these letters. I mean the releases. The release by the United Nations mission in South Sudan and the counter released by the government of Lake State through its Ministry of Information.
Yes. So I want you to talk about what are the human rights laws. So human right laws associated with the law, international law. So I want you to talk about this.
Well, as you know, Brother Madit, I am not of any legal background, but I understand the basics that are required of any human being so that you can be able to understand as well how you can live harmoniously without breaking the laws. And as somebody who is a student of ideas, I will be taking you through this rapidly, although it wouldn't be like you are talking to a lawyer who has specialized in the international law, including the humanitarians or human rights in that aspect. So from my limited knowledge of law, I can say human rights are actually the universal values and guarantees, those universal values and guarantees that are protecting the individuals or group against actions or omissions that can come from state agencies or individuals. And those rights are supposed to be referred to as fundamental freedoms and entitlements. They protect the human dignity and all the spectra that comes out from that, from the civil aspect, from what we call cultural aspect, from economical aspect, and even political aspect. Those social rights, one of the fundamentals among them all is actually a right to life. A right for Sunday and Madit and Tiang plus others to live. It is a right. That is the fundamental and it is the supreme of all the rights that can be listed 1, 2 to 10. This right would render all the rest invalid if you have been deprived of it. So that is what I understand from that angle. And if we go deeper and deeper, we will be able to understand that these rights have been considered as universal, and they are inalienable. They are universal in the sense that whether of your religion, color, or whichever creed you believed in, these rights are universal. They apply all across the board. And these rights have been enshrined in a number of legislations, including international treaties. And they are also protected by the international law on human rights and also international law on what they call humanitarian. So humanitarian law, plus many other legal entities that have prescribed them. And we have seen this in a number of ways, manifesting as guaranteed rights that should be protected by the United Nations because they are emanating actually from its charter. And all the laws that have been made recently, the 13 treaties that have been made recently do guarantee these universal rights as subject to protection. And this international law and humanitarian law have also prescribed that while these rights are to be protected, they also hold responsible the state authorities. For example, the leadership or the government of the Republic of South Sudan has an entitlement to protect these rights and the properties of the people of South Sudan. While the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan has a mandate to protect these rights, just like its other missions, it is also true that the governments, whether the government of the Republic of South Sudan or the government of Lakes State or Warap in particular, have also been tasked with the responsibility to protect the lives of civilians and their properties within their jurisdiction. That is a prescription by itself. Now, the two governments are concurrently, the two organizations, or call them entities, that would be the applicable terminology, maybe for lack of better words. The two entities are protecting their responsibilities. They are exercising, let me say, their responsibilities. The government of Lakes State or the government of Warap or the government of South Sudan has a task to protect the citizen of the Republic of South Sudan and locally at the level of Warap and Lakes. While the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan has a right to be watchful whether the rights, the human rights of the people that are being protected are actually guaranteed by the governments of the day. That is it. So when the United Nations mission in South Sudan released a statement in regards to the violations of the human rights, it could have been from its own capacity to understand and to get the right information on whose rights have been violated and whose rights have not, as an exercise that is concurrently being done with the other responsibilities in the Republic of South Sudan. So what happened is the government of Republic of South Sudan and the government of Lakes State should have taken the lead to tell the HISOM, this representative of the United Nations, in simple terms, that we have not violated these laws or these rights, the human rights of the individuals within our jurisdictions. We have done this and this. Or acknowledge that these rights have been violated. But there are conflicting points that they have raised independently. The government of Lakes State has categorically denied the fact that the news spread by the United Nations on violations of human rights were not in line with its mandate, because the news are actually false. That is the gross statement they have given. If you can summarize their reaction, including with the current demonstration. But if you go to the side of the United Mission in South Sudan, it is an international organization with responsibilities that can be enumerated from one down the line. And these responsibilities include the protection of the human rights of the citizens of the Republic of South Sudan. Given that South Sudan is a signatory to all those statutes by default or just through our membership to the United Nations. And since we are the 93rd nation of the United Nations, all the international treaties are binding on us. We can protect the rights of civilians, but we can not protect that right by just sitting down and saying that we are protecting it. Certain actions need to be taken. And this is where the humanitarian law, international law comes in. When we talk of the international laws, for example, there is a United Nations sheet. It is called fact sheet number 32. This fact sheet number 32 has actually talked about these rights and the protection that is guaranteed by a number of laws, but it has also delineated that the governments of the day will have the responsibility. Now, if the government of the day is trying to handle the criminals like it has happened widely in the Republic of South Sudan, it becomes a question that needs to be digested and responded to in a manner that will not generate conflict between the two organizations, the government of South Sudan or government of Lakes, for that matter, versus the international body that is the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan. Now, the government of the Republic of South Sudan has a mandate to protect South Sudanese against any harm within their jurisdiction. And we have seen there is widespread crime within the Republic of South Sudan. And to limit our point, we're talking about the Lake State. Now look at the Lake State status. Lake State from 2013 or beyond to date has been in crisis. It is one community versus the other, a subsection versus the other, ambushes on the road, and so many other criminal offenses that we have witnessed, with lives being lost and property also at the same time. When we see this, we take it from this angle that there is somebody or there are groups or individuals in the Republic of South Sudan that have opted to take the law into their own hands, and they opted to use the arms that have been proliferating inside the country to destroy the lives of fellow country or state men and women, including killing of women and small children. This has happened in Lakes. Now, the government of the day, the government of Lake State or the government of Warap State, that sees this as its responsibility to protect the citizen and guarantee their safety, including that one of their property, decided to handle these criminals or call them bandits or whoever they will be. And then the United Nations claim that the rights have been violated. The questions come in.
Exactly.
Whose rights? The rights of the victims, of their fellow citizens, or the rights of the people that are being tackled by the government of the day? And these universal rights have been mentioned that they are universal. It means they are applied to all of us.
Yeah.
And let us put it like this. I have taken up a gun and used this gun to intimidate Paul and his family and cause them harm, assuming psychologically.
Yes, go ahead.
Or physically. God forbid. That is not my intention against my brother.
So, okay, it's an example, yeah, go ahead.
And the government comes in to handle me as a criminal that has armed himself to harm others. The question is, as an organization somewhere whose responsibility is to protect the rights, whose rights will this organization protect? The rights of Tiang and his family, or my human rights, the culprit here, or the perpetrator of the crime? Of course, since these human rights are applicable to all of us, then the protection should come across the board. And by the international law, it has been mentioned in several writings, and particularly in what they called Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, basic documents, that a state cannot, the state cannot employ state terrorism to combat subversive terrorism. By these laws, they say the state would be applying terrorism on a subversive terrorist, that is me now. And this one has been outlawed. And since we can now question ourselves that what is it that should be done? I have completely impacted negatively on people. And at the same time, when the government want to apprehend me and handle me the way it deems right, the government is also at wrong. You see here? Then these laws applies that there is something called due diligence that must be done. The application of the rule of law.
Yeah.
That is the application of the rule of law.
Yeah.
And if it is the application of the rule of law, that is the culprits are traced, pursued, arrested, taken to court, tried, and whatever the consequence, that is a due diligence. And then for the case of the current crimes and the setup, we will be able to say, as long as we subscribe to international laws, we will always be obedient in obeying these laws, including the protections of the human rights. But the international community should come down to also look at it from the perspective of our customary laws. If you go for the customary laws aspect, if I kill Brother Tim today, and there is no law that is apprehending me, or the legal process will take long. Tim is born from a community and he has brothers and sisters. They'll take law in their own hands.
Yeah, they
will go to the law of revenge.
The cycling of revenge.
They will go to the law, what we called the revenge. Now, what is the definition of this revenge law from the international perspective? This is where our customary laws and the local laws of the country becomes applicable. I do not want to say that General Alewa Yeng or General Rintwen Mabur are at fault. They are acting in a manner they deem appropriate to protect the lives of majority being maimed. But by international standards, they are very much at wrong. If we have seen the demonstration of people of Lakes and the reaction on the social media, Rintwen is not wrong, because he is trying to suppress the terrorists that are terrorizing the society.
The society, correct.
While the international angle looks at these terrorists as non-terrorists, but citizens of the state being maimed by an individual that has authority. This is where the conflict comes. General Rin has not gotten it wrong. He did nothing wrong. Because when he was appointed, let me come to this angle. When Rin was appointed, he did not fly to Lakes, or he has not driven himself to Lakes. He actually sat down with people of Lakes State from various institutions, the intellectuals and the lawmakers, through number of sittings. The sitting number one was the sitting following his swearing in. With him were key figures of Lakes State. The trio, namely Paul Mayoma Cage. And you have heard what Paul Mayoma Cage has said when Rin was sworn in. He was telling the president, while we watch that go and fulfill the responsibility of protecting the lives and properties of the people of Lakes State. This was reiterated by Daniel Awenakut, and then David Dengatorbe asked the president to support General Rin with resources so that he can be able to run the government of Lake State that has been tasked with the protection of the civilian in a smooth manner. After that, Rin did not leave it that way. He went further to call the entire public, regardless of religion, creed, or political affiliations. And we saw Freedom Hall was filled to capacity. And people talked there, including authorizing Rin to go and kill people who have committed crimes that are deemed fit for killing of those perpetrators. The boys was one, except General Marial Chanwang, who said that Rin is an individual who has a family. And if this one has not been made into a law, it shouldn't just be directed through our lips that go and kill. That was a point discussed. And a number of resolutions were made, nearly 25. Rin went down, and he also went and he talked with the lawmakers, the ones we refer to as representatives in the assemblies, whether at the level of Lake State assemblies, assembly, they were later on brought together. There were about 3 of them. And then the National Assembly plus the Council of States. The former and the current members were called to deliberate on the matter. And from the sources, these responses were later on merged together with the first responses and taken to the authority, the president. When Rin went to Lake State, presumably he has laws that have been made for him by the citizens. And that is why he was armed enough with the tanks that the UN is complaining of today. And when he went to Lake, he has these laws. These laws, I can term them for the purpose of now as extra-constitutional laws. They are not enshrined in the Constitution of Lake State and also in the Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan. Whose mistake is it? The mistake is not at the level of Lakes. People of Lakes have been yearning for security. Whether this security would be restored in a forceful manner or in a peaceful manner, their interest is they should walk free from harms. They should sleep soundly. This is what Rin has done. It is due diligence at that aspect. But it is not due diligence at the individual level within the state. And that, I think, has prompted the UN to complain. Given this angle, let us again ask more rhetorical questions or questions that would deserve answers. Who is at fault? That question needs to be answered.
Yes.
If the UN says it's Rin, because he has not followed the due process, these people that killed citizens, these people that kill citizens on daily basis, what are they? If you can draw the related examples, and I told you before, I wouldn't be quoting laws the much a lawyer would do or a judge would do. But I will always associate my point with an entity that would be relevant for the situation of Lakes. Just look at it from this angle. When the United Nations sat down after the US was bombed in 2001. Was it September 11?
Yes, September 11, yes.
There was quick expedition of laws, including regional coordinations with all the organizations across, ranging from African Union to European Union and many other ones, like the Arab Leagues, because there was a threat of terror. And if we go deeply to define terrorism, we will not have a conventional definition that would make us think this one is terrorism and that one is not. To people of South Sudan, there is an ongoing terrorism. It has happened in Lakes State. People are killed by people that have no problems with them.
And they walk away.
Being killed
they go
for
away.
the purposes of intimidation.
Yes.
And gains. It wouldn't be far away from terrorism.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Sunday. You see, the reaction of the people, the right of human right that the United Nations or UNMISS is talking about now. Where were they when the women are raped or killed, and even the foreigners have been killed, teachers, students, those who have no any problems, and they never, even including the the bishop, elected bishop who was shot in his leg in Rumbek. I haven't heard them coming out to condemn that or to raise any awareness. And this is where the question even coming up, facing our government. What is the role of the government here? What is the role of the United Nations mission in South Sudan? So these are the things that we need to elaborate it for our viewers, everybody to know. And you are in a right. You got very good points now that you are giving our viewers. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. To me, this question is hard to answer. It is hard to answer in the sense that United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan has done nothing wrong. It is practicing its mandate. It is the oversight role and maintenance of peace by guaranteeing that human rights are not violating. This law and that law are not violated. But the failure is with the judicial system of the Republic of South Sudan. For example, if due diligence, that is the requirement of the international law, is to be effected, the reasonable prevention of these criminal acts or actions was to be prevented, there has to be an efficient judicial system. Even Haitham, the head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, will never wait if his son was to be killed today and nobody is caught and imprisoned or tried in a competent court of law. I am not against the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan. I am only trying to give a point that the law has not been recognized by the law interpreting or the body that is in charge of the laws in the country. For example, by the Penal Court Act, and I debated with some of my colleagues the other time, I told them that with the statements that are being given to General Rin in the hall, tomorrow Rin will be considered as a violator of the laws. But today he is being instructed almost by everybody to do this and this. If I were to be Rin, I would ask the very people, the legislators, to translate this and put them as laws of the Republic of South Sudan, or at least in the constitution of the of Lake State, and then use them to the capacity that I can. But now he is being targeted as the violator of the human rights. But the failure is actually at the top. Where is Chanrej Madut? Chanrej Madut could have responded adequately. Chanrej Madut could have responded adequately to the press release of the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan, simply because he is in charge of the judiciary and he is allowing certain laws outside of the judicial work to be done in his watch, and he has no say. When Aliu told public that I am in uniform because Kira said I must go to Warap, if I fail, he is himself the one to come. That was itself a violation of law, because he was going there for a mission to go and violate the human rights of the citizens of Warap state. But Chan was quiet. Where is Madul Arol Kachwal, who is the constitutional, mandated person at the legal ministry? These law enforcement agencies are being directed by the executive to only enforce the role of the executive, that is protection of the civilians and their properties. But while they infringe on the citizen, there has to be acknowledgement that these citizens were also infringed on by a certain element. And what is it that we should do to this element? You see, a mere governor can do nothing more than Rin has done, or than Aliu has done, trying to apprehend the criminals. And if these criminals are heavily armed, they have guns, what do you want Rin to do? Beg them? No. This is where we respect the fact sheet number 3, including all the international treaties. And this is where we also respect this book, the ones they refer to as, there is another book that is called what? The Practitioner's Book number 9. It is by the same UN. Okay. And then Ibrin or his forces have used firearms. Okay. Or any force. It has also been mandated. If you can read the resource book on the use of force and firearms in enforcing law, you can again get Rin on a safer side. Because force is used in situations such as this one. If somebody is not complying, okay, if somebody is not complying with the lawful police instructions, and in most cases, if our police officers go to even stop people that are worrying, they become victims themselves. Because the culprits that they would go to apprehend would even use arms bigger than theirs. This is where law is applicable. One, when they are to arrest dangerous suspects. And also, when they are breaking up a violent crowd. Although this has been followed, that while you are using force in circumstances such as the one I have enumerated, you are always strictly going to take the obligation, protection of the civilian and their resources. You see, this situation is completely very delicate. And it becomes worse if we are trying now to copy-paste the international law without our local laws being implied in a manner that is not violating the human rights of the civilians. While we want the human rights to be protected, we need this protection to be universal, in that a culprit who is being apprehended by the government today and being killed or being tried in a bad way or being extrajudicially killed is actually an accomplice in a crime somewhere, or is a criminal himself. So, United Nations mission in South Sudan has a mandate also to help in making South Sudanese make laws. It has a mandate also to protect South Sudanese. Why is it interested in protection of the criminals more than the citizens that the crime has been effected on? This becomes a tough question. And when we go to all those treaties, we will be able to understand that the interest of the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan is the protection, but it is becoming selective. I'm not accusing the UN body. I have no reason to protect the government of South Sudan. It is my wish that it fail fully so that I can take over with my fellow opposition members. But the lives of South Sudanese matters most. The lives of South Sudanese becomes even more important. 2 days ago, I have seen very disturbing images that were taken as a result of the conflict in Western Equatoria, the Yambio Tambura territory, in a conflict that they called Balanda versus Zande conflict. Up to today, I have never heard a point from the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan.
Correct.
Why? And those people who were killing those women with their arms tied at the back, if I happen to get a gun and shoot them tomorrow, what will the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan say? Of course, there has to be understanding between the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan, the culprits that are disturbing peace or destabilizing the country, and the law enforcement agencies. Asking one, like, if those atrocities were committed in Lakes, God forbid, even Lakes is worse as well. If those atrocities were to happen in Lakes today, and Rin sits back without doing anything, that is an act of omission. It is also a violation of human rights. If he goes in and killed the culprits, those who have killed the others, to prevent revenge, to prevent escalation of the crime that has happened, he will also be considered as an offender because the action violates the human rights. That is the right to life. You see, this is a world of confusion. And who is confusing who? This is the question we need to answer. I don't protect criminals who are willing to kill people. But where is the judicial system that will try them? We know the interest of international community is all about the due diligence. A person who has killed somebody has to be taken through the judicial system so that he can be tried fairly, hearing right and left, all the things that made him do that, until the law stand alone and he gets punished or acquitted for that matter. This is what they want. But how much time does that require in the Republic of South Sudan, where guns are everywhere? You see? If you say Rini is wrong, you are wrong. If you say Rini is right, you are wrong. The matter is, does Rini have a mandate to protect citizens of Lakes State? Yes. Does United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan also have a mandate to protect or to enforce the protection of human rights? Yes. So what I would say is, the leaders of the mentioned areas should not use the extra constitutional laws that were given to them by the state members. Now, they must ask these state lawyers and the national, maybe legislative assembly, plus the presidency that makes it work as a parliament, to make those laws into part of the constitution now, so that they don't act outside them and then shoulder the blame that they don't deserve. This should happen now. And also let the judicial system step up. Quick judicial, I don't know, decentralization, so that there are courts that would be mobile within us and Leo and others, so that if these criminals are caught today, they should be tried tomorrow. That is the time the rule of law will be restored. We know very well you don't have to enforce the rule of law using violence. The government of South Sudan should not kill people to restore rule of law. Internationally is unacceptable. But the local authorities have no choice. And the matter is up. And that is why we have been irritating that we need an independent judicial system. See? What is required is what? An independent judiciary with the sufficient resources and power to punish abuses by the authorities and by private individuals. That is the fundamental requirement now. But where is it? Do we have to wait for the next 10 years to have that defined judiciary? An independent judiciary with the sufficient resources and power. It is independent, endowed with the sufficient resources, and endowed with power. That is a requirement for due diligence. And who is supposed to provide it? It is supposed to be provided by the Republic of South Sudan. Because Lake State has no judiciary of its own. They are served like other states to be at a certain regional level, and then the county courts or the state courts, if there are courts like that. But they are inadequate. And the judicial system is also not effective, even at the level of Juba. If you go to the Penal Court Act, the Penal Court Act of the Republic of South Sudan is where capital punishment has been prescribed. And this is done through the judicial process with the final approval from the head of state, that is the president. And anybody that should be punished with the capital punishment should go through that process. If we go by all these laws, then United Mission in the Republic of South Sudan is not our enemy. It is us, South Sudanese, that are the enemies of ourselves. This is where a thin line needs to be drawn. But blaming the governors when they have the only option that is working now for the case of Lakes State and Warap, then it is like United Nations Mission in the Republic of South Sudan, having seen the system of governance that is faulty, would want to tell the governors to keep quiet and allow the states to dwindle by allowing citizens to butcher each other at will, like it has happened before. A salvage is a necessity. I don't also subscribe to what people refer to as law of necessity. We need to restore rule of law now by establishing an independent judiciary with sufficient resources and power. And this independent judiciary will have the capability to try those that act as state agents and the individuals. And you know what? State agents are not, number one, committers of the offenses or abuses that are happening now. It is the individuals or groups that are doing that. If you take the case of Lake State, like 3 months ago, I wept here, I cried here. 2 women were killed by somebody and he ran away. Why for? If you go, children and the mother, a child and the mother were just killed while sleeping. What crimes have they committed while sleeping? You have mentioned before, passers-by, people who are just following the main road, going to wherever they want to go to, have been ambushed and killed. We have the United Nations mission in Lakes. What have they done to protect the human rights of those women and children that were killed and passers-by that were killed?
Very good.
Of course, they were there. And they blame the government of South Sudan. Rightly, because the government of South Sudan should protect the citizen.
And if the government of South Sudan take the action, they say, why are you doing that? Why are you killing the criminal?
Well, the government of South Sudan has not taken the best option. You see, the action that is being taken by Aleo and Rin is the worst, is the best worst. I can call it the best worst. All the decisions that are there on the table are worse. But this is the best worst. Protect the majority against the destructive minority by destroying that minority, just like they are fighting terrorists. But it is not within the scope of the terrorism definition. That is the best worst they have picked. And they shouldn't be blamed 99% of the time. The blame goes to where the breakdown of the rule of law started. It started at the level of the nation. The Constitution has been designed in such a way that it is being monopolized by the president. The judiciary is in his pocket. The legislature is in his pocket. Like until today, they have not been sworn in. And people are saying, we are implementing the agreement. It is a decree today, decree tomorrow, the ones the other day, while citizens are dying. If you can go deeply, I believe the United Nations is targeting only the soft spots. Seeing Rin and Aliu as subordinates, the blame is on them. when they know where the blame should go. When people were having issues in Malakal, they were asked to do whatever they like. And if you are strong or if you have run away, then I will give you protection. And then don't talk again because you are not a man enough. We don't need this. We don't need this. We need a rule of law. We need a rule of law. Whether you are weak, you can talk. That does not make you less a man. Whether somebody has defeated you, you can talk. That does not make you less a man. First and foremost, United Nations should put pressure not at the level of Lakes or Warap, but at the biggest level. Because they also see crimes happening inside Juba. And that is where their headquarters is. Where does he sleep? Doesn't he hear the gun near his gate? Hisam should not be trying to make statements that are totally trivial when he knows the biggest issue. I am not defending Rin. In most cases, we don't have common ground. I'm not defending Aleo. We have only met once in the entire life of ours. And I am not defending anyone. But I am interested in seeing people of the Republic of South Sudan, regardless of where they come from, having the freedoms, having the right to life on equal basis. And this is by observing the international laws and the local laws. But this thin line, the narrow line, must also be observed. Inaction leads to blame. Action leads to blame. What is it that is needed? Let us bring the United Nations down to the customary aspect of our society. Does the United Nations know that people in South Sudan fight because somebody has run away with your daughter and a blood can be shed because of that?
Thank
Does
you.
the
Thank
United
you so much,
Nations
Dr.
understand?
John, I
Yes.
need to give you a break little bit to drink some water, and then you come back for this after this short commercial break. Will be the music from our daughter Nyapa Lul, one of the stars here in Australia. She's with us here, and I'm proud of her song. With Alam Bitana, the Alam Bitana didn't cut we talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you so much. Sunday, the John, you really celebrated the rules and I think
Yes, yes.
Yeah, there's a background noise. That's why I kept quiet, and I put you on mute because of that background noise. I let our viewers need to focus and listen to you, just to appreciate you of how you elaborated the mandates and the human rights, and you really tell the audience and the public Republic of South Sudan they have listened to you for what you have said. And that's why I played the song of our daughter. Is our daughter of South Sudan, with that whom we are proud of, is a star, Nyapa Lul, about the flag, the bearer between University Sudan. And it's not a symbol thing. It's a big symbol. And it has a big meaning, and that's why we are here, and that's why some other people, they don't sleep at night and day thinking how we can help this country, how we can go back to stand up and work as the other countries. We are not the only country that has gone through atrocities or through mistreatment or through bad governing or something like that. So thank you so much, Dr. Sunday De John, for your views that you are sharing with your brothers and sisters. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, this topic of respect of human rights or violations of human rights in association with the state agencies and the local individuals and groups that are acting as also perpetrators of crimes is a delicate one. It is hard to deal with in the sense that the line is so thin that if you go left, you are hurting here, and right, you are hurting there. You know, these two entities are completely right and they are justified. When Rin gives his version that he did not violate human rights, he actually protected the citizens and their properties from crimes, do not say he is covering up something. This is what people of Lake State want. They need to be protected and their properties at the same time, so that the Lake State name should not be in the news in terms of so was killed, so ambushed, so three are fighting going, Chit have attacked at what? Aliab is masquerading to go and raid a park, or a park is doing this, and Irul West is attacking Rumbek East, Rumbek North is waylaying people of Chuabet. People of Chuabet are fighting among themselves. That is a bad way of expressing lakes. The best way of expressing lake is there is law and order in lakes.
Yes.
And this law and order comes as a consequence of hard task. And these hard tasks involve identification of the exact cause of instability.
Exactly.
If you ask the question, who is the cause of instability in lakes? It is the likes of Malichot. It is the like of so and so. Those guys that have armed themselves to teeth. And their function is to terrorize the societies by killing innocent women and looting the resources or raiding cattle from the neighboring communities. And this become counterproductive because the communities raided will also go and do the reverse. Now, what do? People are saying that there are justifications. Justifications would be during the liberation days. During the liberation days, citizens were harmonious.
Yeah.
They were harmonious, yes.
Exactly.
Because jungle laws were in place. They were more of a constitution than the current one. I have witnessed, just like it would be done through a judicial process, few criminals have gone through the jungle laws application. But today we can also say we are not again in the jungle. Why are we not peaceful? The factor is associated with the governance. And therefore, since our topic is not on the issues of governance of the day, it is on the issues of Lake State and Warap, with a limited point of human rights being violated by the state agents. When truly there are other agents that are violating the rights of the citizen, we have to understand that RIN is also justified. Justified, and Alew is also justified. Justified that the international law permits. Okay? The international law permits that it does not prohibit, the targeting or killing of combatants.
Yeah.
It does not stop us from handling the combatants. These people are combating each other. They have RPGs. They have AK-47s. They have PKMs. They have the light weapons and the heavy weapons. What for? To terrorize their fellow statesmen. Whose responsibility is it to stop them from doing that? It is the government of the day. And if these actors that are not part of the state are being told to lay down their arms, they refused. then it is permitted by the international law, and including the human rights law, I mean humanitarian law, that when there are warring parties, they should stick to those with arms without harming the civilian or those that have been incapacitated or that have laid down their arms. I am speaking at a political level.
That is the reason now there is an armed embarrassment in South Sudan. Exactly. That's what that is the point you are talking now.
So when you hear of the armed embargo that is happening in the country, the international community has sanctioned South Sudan by slamming it with the armed embargo. Why? Simply because they do not want to permit the arms to be used in destruction of the societies. Good. Okay. But what about the arms that have already proliferated inside? The small arms that people are handling now.
They need to be collected.
What is it that they have done with it? If you have seen the reports by a small arms group, if you have seen the reports by people like Brother Bothwell, Alan Bothwell, on the Republic of South Sudan, arms are everywhere. And they are being wrongly used. They are not being used for hunting. They are being used for really very wrong reasons. If somebody has run away with somebody's daughter, on aspect of love, you follow him with a gun him down. Somebody will have the courage to move at night, even one man, long time ago, when guns were not very common. Brother Tiang, it becomes very difficult to move across Rornomiyak. And we have read about the stories of Maumdiak.
Yeah, I remember that. I know it.
Yes, by Professor Wolmakech.
Yes.
When he said Maumdiak, and then he went on to elaborate that go Maumdiak, Rana Toy Chol Mariala dear, Chamon Tini Nyanya Tir, full Chol of Tapnum. Is that what we don't read the other day when we were in primary school?
Yeah, that's right. I know.
Today, one man can move from Agar to Aliap without fear because he has a gun. If Maumdiak can fear, he will handle Maumdiak with his gun. Will not Maumdiak will not jump behind so that he can just scatter all his spears.
Yes.
Who is the owner of the gun? The owner of the gun is not anybody else but the government. Does the government of South Sudan prevent people from getting guns from here and there? No. At least each state should do the best it can. As somebody who is in the rebellion, I have presumably my men in the bush, and they are armed. Will you be able to disarm them? They are not under you.
Now you have answered the question of Mansour Azaki. You know Mansour Azaki, we were together before. Yeah,
of course, they are my relatives. they have lost a significant brother in the Battle of Tali.
Right. Yeah, the point that you have just now elaborated is answering the question that Mansour have written down to the public. Thank you so much, Dr. Sande. Go ahead. Yeah.
But what I would want to advise the Lakes State and Warap State leadership is let them not be in conflict with the United Nations mission in South Sudan.
Yeah.
Let them use the best diplomacy they have. I am a rebel. I'm not supposed to advise them. But South Sudan is very dear to me.
Correct.
That I wouldn't want the citizens to have the same situation where they wake up with the fears of unknown that would kill them. And if anybody is making them peaceful, be him a devil, be him a good person, be him what? That person, we give him a long tick and we continue with our opposition so that we will go and improve the lives of our people when they are not all dead. In our society, we say that you can leave your child to somebody with confidence that you will come back and take the responsibility. While we have left South Sudan for our various reasons and in opposition, we consider it a territory that we treasure. And it must not dwindle. International community has a huge responsibility. And we are thankful for that partially. If you have seen the conflict of 2013 down to 2016, as it dragged on up to today, there are people in the protection of civilian sites still. One, due to war trauma and the real fear because the war has not ended. While United Missions in the Republic of South Sudan is giving our people shelter, they are also committing other prohibited acts. They are playing with our daughters. And there is a law on that. And Hisam has not spoken about it. What I want to say is, with every responsibility, there are errors. Mistakes happen. How many Chinese children do we have in South Sudan? And how did Chinese come to South Sudan in the first place? They came through the humanitarian work. Is it their mandate to come and make our daughters and sisters pregnant? No. It is even outlawed by the same charters that they are quoting. Don't permit one and prevent one. I applaud them for upholding the protection of the human rights. And these rights should also trickle down to South Sudanese themselves. That is a factor. While the government of South Sudan is doing 1, 2, 3, 4 mistakes, we will always be crying that these mistakes are happening due to the absence of laws that should be used. And if there are laws, then they are being implied selectively, which is also wrong. So, brother Tim, I would say Rin is justified because you want a special rapporteur between 1982 and 1992, as this man called Amos Wako has mentioned a number of good things. That if the government of the day sees the crimes being perpetrated by individuals or groups and does not take action, that is tolerance and acquiescence, and so is responsible for the violations of those human rights. As much as people like Green are exercising their responsibility, it is possible a collateral would be there. They will annoy a factor. But what comes in is, even without implying any law, two wrongs do not make a right, they say. It is wrong for him to sit like this. And therefore, Rin should act to save life. That is one. There is no life that is bad. But if we ask ourselves, why are some people interested in killing others? These paramount human right, the right to life, must be applicable. And this is a layman thing that I want to say. It is not associated with any law. I must not be misquoted. You put the factors in the weighing machine. The damage being caused by these 10, 15, or 13 individuals is higher than them being destroyed. Why did the United States of America kill Saddam Hussein? Because he's a terrorist, right or wrong. After their agency detected where he was hiding, they went there with helicopters and they started fighting him because he was resisting arrest. And a person like that should be destroyed. By the angle of people of Lakes State, and I am not sure whether Rin has even killed people because I did not see it in news.
He has already killed, yeah.
I am not sure. But if he has killed people, people of Lake State have viewed those people that didn't killed as equivalent of Saddam Hussein. They have terrorized them. Don't hold Rin responsible for killing a terrorist. Afflict him. Support him. Let the United Nations mission in the Republic of South Sudan team up with Rin. Let him fly everywhere. Actually, what has impressed me about all the things that are being done by Rin and Aliu is that there is mobility in lakes now. People can move. I have never heard, you see, in tea places, in the cities, people sit there to discuss. My clan will defeat theirs. I have not heard that one now. That is my biggest impression about Rin. But Rin has no laws as we are speaking. That sitting in that hall, the sitting with the president, are not enough as laws until they are put in the constitution, whether that of state or that of nation, so that a governor is given certain powers. You see, we also know if Rin continue like this, the international community will put pressure on Kir that a state governor is doing something bad, and it will chase away Rin, and the state will remain in trouble more. I'm not saying Rin is the only competent son of Lake State that would enforce law and order, but everybody has his colors. Everybody has a scent, has a smell.
Yeah.
And if Rin has managed to calm Lake State for 5 days now, let us say sum up, continue. We need lakes to be peaceful. My brother, there is nothing as painful as you sleeping in a foreign land and you have not guaranteed that your mother or sister or brother are sleeping soundly back home.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
You people have suffered. You people have suffered enough.
Exactly, yes.
I have known it practically. I have been here for the last 4 years, not going to South Sudan. And I am sleepless.
Correct.
I do not know how my young brother will sleep or how my young sister will sleep. Because there are people, some of them are grouped, they are called Abakak. Does United Nations mission in South Sudan knows this Abakak? Who is Abakak? No. How do you handle Abakak? UN should also give us more definitions.
Sunday, can I invite you back in fixing Lakes State? I need this debate, man, to be extended back. It's you got a lot of experience and good words that you are giving out here to share with our people. In particular, you anyway, it is you are talking about the whole South Sudan. But particularly in the about the case of Lakes State and Warap states, You have really elaborated it, and it's very good. And I need this debate with some of my brothers also who are writing down here. I need all of you on Saturday in Australian time, which is Friday in the US and North America. Come in the Fixing Lakes State show. And we will be discussing all your questions that you are asking. What is the point they were armed first? There's somebody is asking why the civilians were armed first. And that question is obvious, and we can answer it. The reason Garang has armed the civilian to protect themselves because they were really engaged with the main enemy they know. And now, why the arms is still in the hand of the civilian is the government supposed to protect the civilian and remove the guns from their hands. All these questions we will discuss it. Our brothers and sisters, thank you so much for your question. Join us on Saturday in this show. Sunday, John, go ahead. I'm really happy with your word, brother.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Brother Tiang. I am completely incoherent. I mean, I am not balancing myself well. Because one, United Nations mission in South Sudan has its mandate. I don't have to contraband the international treaties. I respect them and all the obligations that come with them. Two, I am also not interested in inclination on the United Nations treaties without guaranteeing the safety of my people. The right to life is important, and the citizens that are being helped from these criminals back today by RIN have human rights. Their right to live is also a good one. Let us balance it. What I would advise, if they can listen to the government of the day at the level of RIN and allow, is that let them also cooperate with the international community. Let them give them access to wherever they want to go. Because I know these people have families. They have been involved in the liberation of the country, and they wouldn't be very much interested in taking their guns and shooting civilians at random. RIN would not be on the streets of Rumbek killing any passerby. No. The same thing with Alewa Yeng. If there is a strike that they have done, let it always be surgical. Let it always be what? Be surgical. For example, if you are to conduct an open heart surgery, whichever direction from the sternum or at the side that you have chosen to approach the patient, kindly don't tamper with the nearby arteries or nerve bundles, because they also have importance at the right time, and go in surgically to remove the unwanted, portion of whatever, would it be a growth or an accumulation of fluids or whatever that is there. And by that I mean to say, let their imposition of lawfulness not impinge on innocent people. They should not give grounds that are uncalled for to these United Nations that will irritate the president and chase them away, so that they do not truly enter into troubles that they don't deserve. But again, let them not slip so that Abakak destroys people. This Abakak should go. I learned that there was a man who by accident killed a brother, and whose other brother had to go down to trace the child of the man and killed a 2 or 1 year old child in the interest of revenge. Somebody would go and kill a sleeping woman in his room, in her room with a baby. How do we call a person like this in Tongomonjang? Some people, including Rin, have suggested such a person is no longer a human, is wrath. And from the white man terminology, anybody that has a desire to kill somebody for no reason, as a way of intimidating or coercing them, is a terrorist. So those people are terrorists. They should be dealt with. Look, I have my brothers back home. Every day, if I get the chance to talk to them, it is uncommon because of my nature. I don't talk to them on frequent basis. Because if they are also heard by people like Rin, they will harm them because they are talking to a rebel. It's another crime by itself. So if I talk to them, I tell them, don't commit crime. You will be prosecuted. I tell them, don't commit crime. Don't steal somebody's cow. If we have one cow, that is enough. We will work hard to get another one. Don't kill anybody on the road just because you want to take their blanket.
Sunday, my last visit home, I went home. Some of my relatives asking me, Abraham, you need to buy yourself a cow. And then I asked them, which cow? The cow that people are dying for? I said, no, I'm not going to buy a cow.
Yes.
Because this time I don't want to buy a cow and you guys end up dead or kill somebody.
Sure. These days there is no societal balance. You know, when there is a common agenda, my brother Madid and my brother Tieng, if there is a common agenda, we can unite and handle it adequately. And then go later on and fall in our differences. Stability of Lake State has been something that I think of at night and during the day. When Maturichud was a governor, people from his clan did not listen to him. They fought the neighboring clan. And as well, the neighboring clan did not listen to him. They even killed his own brother. You see? What I am trying to say is that there is no respect for the rule of law. And I know very well people of Lake State, like any other state in the Republic of South Sudan, have not failed to define the problems that happens in their state and prescribes right law for them. But people are very, very aggressive. And as politicians, I have joined politics adequately. I'm not afraid to say that I am in politics, even in opposition. I would equate myself with those politicians. Even if I am not somebody who is holding a position, I have political interest. The politicians must support the stability of the state. If they support the stability of the state, violence will not escalate. And the stability of the state would come if politicians do not express bad words and inciting their societies. The spirit of hatred would die. Killing hatred is not easy. But going by the words of Nelson Mandela, if people can be taught to love or can be taught to hate, the reverse would be very true. We can teach ourselves to love. I have seen that in situations when political matter arises, you close your ears and choose one direction without looking right and left. That is harmful to our state and beyond. Let me connect the device to the power source as we continue talking.
Oh yes, it's okay.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, give me a minute to power is going our way.
No worries. Yes, it's okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunday. Appreciate
Lo
your
chimene kana ko.
words. Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, Franco. It's a good music that remind us our country back home and all the territories of the Republic of South Sudan. What can we do and what we say is a part of this show. Welcome, thank you, and welcome back, Dr. Sandy De John and Abraham Madit. I may be leaving soon. Because it's morning hours now, I need to drop off my kid to school and then I come back. If the show continues, I will get you back. And if the show has ended in my absentia, it's all right. We will be meeting on Saturday for me here, and that will be Friday in North America, and will be Saturday morning hours in East Africa and South Sudan to discuss fixing Lakes State show. And this is a very wonderful analysis that you are giving to the public of South Sudan, not Lake State. You are addressing the nation. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunday. We'll leave you and go ahead.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaac, and thank you, Dr. Sunday. So we continue with our discussion. Dr. Sunday, before you start where you left off, there are two things, I want to ask you, and also this will not be a question, but it will be a comment, because there's two things that people of Lake State are facing. These two things, this is the root cause of the conflict or the violence in the state. Like revenge attack, you mentioned revenge attack before, and that's one of the questions that I put it down so that we can talk about it. So revenge attack and cattle rape, these two things are the cause of the violence in the Lake State, particular in Rumbek. Rumbek is a place that revenge is the one common there. People are killing each other, revenge attack. I was born in Rumbek actually, in a Agar area, and I grew up there until I went to the bush. But I never seen in my young life, when I was in Agar area, I never seen a violent like what happening. So it is a heartbreaking when Agar people or Lake State General, they are a people we know as a loving community society in South Sudan. Within Dinka society, we are the loving Dinka people. We welcome everybody. But right now, Lake State has become a battleground, a, a bloodbath state, which is we are killing each other. My question to you, Dr. Kande, is how can the governor, Rentwing, can deal with this crisis, with these two things, revenge attack and cattle rate?
Thank you very much, Abram. You have substantiated on points and then asked a question on issues of revenge and cattle raiding. We have talked about these topics time and again and again. If you see the prognosis or the outcome, the prognosis is always very bad, because whichever way, whether through revenge or cattle raiding, it is the innocent that becomes the victims. It is the innocent that becomes the victims. And if you ask yourself as to why would somebody be raiding cattle from the neighboring community, you cannot be able to pinpoint the exact reason. People have been saying that the exact reason is prestige, that a society like this has raided the other society. But that is not applicable today. People have said it is the proliferation of arms that have given people the courage to go and destroy the neighboring communities and drive away their cattle. That is true to a certain extent. People have mentioned that it is expensive marriages that are the basis of that. And again, it can be invalidated by other factors. Generally speaking, I can say the society is confused, and the reason is multifaceted. It has different angles that it can be tackled from. But the bottom line is the bias is amidst. This issue is with us. Whether it is cattle raiding or revenge attack. Revenge attack is part and parcel of the societies. And when the societies are grouped according to clans, it becomes pertinent in that sense, because it is also associated with the tribal inclination and the norms associated with it. For example, there are sections. If somebody from them has been killed, and even if a reasonable number of cows as prescribed by the customary laws is paid, they'll still leapfrog and do the revenge. All in all, it becomes part of the society in that manner. And if you look deeper and deeper, you will see also the moral degenerations and the usurpation of powers from chiefs and people that have authority at the level of the community. All combined are associated in one way or another to the current state of the affairs. It is not madness. People who are not from Dinka community will say Dinka are animals. They love cows until they reach the level of killing themselves. But in this country that I am in, I have actually witnessed or heard of at least a number of cases associated with even snatching of 20 Kenyan shillings. As low as 20 Kenyan shillings, that is not $1. $1 is 100 here.
Right.
People have killed because of that. It is associated with the mindset and the emotional drives at that particular time. If somebody snatched my fame, what is my evaluation of that? If I leave this pen to go with that person, wouldn't I get it another time? That thing becomes something else. And this will lead to us questioning the nature of the society, right from their upbringing to the societal interaction. All in all, certain norms exist, but they have been augmented by the life of the day, the current life that people are living. If you go to the territories of lakes, somebody was saying that people have refused to be cultivating. And if I ask why, the answer is rains even don't come like they used to. Then there is a climatic change which is locally made, because people have adopted the life in town that requires money. And people in the rural areas are not salaried. They don't have salaries. They don't have banks. They don't have sources of money. The source of money becomes cows. And if you don't have cows, why can't you just get from them, either by theft or by going to snatch from them? And if people say it is because of high dowry, I don't agree 100%. I agree to a certain extent. And this agreement of mine is like this. I have heard of people who have stolen a heifer, a female cow, is never slaughtered in the Dinka culture, unless very old. But they have stolen heifers and slaughtered them and eat their meat. That is no longer an issue of dowry. There is something that has befallen our society. How to deal with the revenge killings is when somebody has been killed 100 years ago or 50 years ago, as the history is passed on orally to the young offspring. Let them know the circumstances that led to the death of their relatives were not the circumstances that we are experiencing today. Even if justice was not done, let us acknowledge that by killing the person who has killed your father or your uncle, it would be enough that we have killed two people at one setting. But that would not be the only best way to handle it. The soundness of mind and reasoning. There has to be a quick process that would lead to a trial of the person who has killed somebody. And people will feel justice has been done. And after this justice, human being is valueless. I mean, it's not valueless. I mean, is immeasurable. The value is high that you cannot quantify it in terms of cows or in terms of money. Even if I say today, I'll kill Madid just like a common saying, and I'll pay 51 or 50 cows, like it is prescribed by the customary law. I know if I allow this Madid to survive for 2 years, he will be able to produce more than 50 cows. So those cows will not be equivalent as a replacement for Madid. All in all, the universal norms disallow what we refer to as capital punishment. But it is still existing in South Sudan. Let us not be selective. Another reason why revenge attacks are persistent is that people who have their relatives in towns would persist in committing crimes because they have a cover. When the law enforcement agencies come, your relatives protect you from them because they are powerful. They become accomplices indirectly. So what I would want to tell the authorities today is that they should not allow culprits to be at large. That would prompt those people who have lost their relatives to seek for revenge. If they cannot be tried on time, let them be inside. And again, these laws are also tough. They will say no arbitrary arrest. You have to be undergoing a due process. And if you are being detained, you will be considered being detained without trial. Yet there are no courts. You know, South Sudan is at a very nonsense state and is confused with bad governance as a consequence. So things become hard. So I would say that people like General Rin should not allow criminals to go away. They should apprehend them and subject them to fair trial on quick basis so that revenge is curtailed that way. And if cattle are raided, let it also be a law by our local people. For example, if you raid my cattle or if you have stolen my cow and it's gotten from you and then given back to me, you will have the urge to go again. And it will be very much unnecessary if also people can go and take cows from your relatives because they have not sent you to go and represent them in stealing. So what could be done is there have to be farms by the government and prisons large enough to contain a person. And then the governments of the day, whether in the national level or the state level, should stop accepting bribes. They should also stop accepting a certain cost that would be paid to buy freedom. If you have been involved in a crime that is suitable for sentencing of about 7 years, let them not accept even a single coin. You should be in prison for 7 years. And the criminals that has been restrained for 7 years, if at all he is allowed to come back, will not think of doing the same again, because he will always be thinking like, 7 years that I have spent have gone for a waste, because they are not years of his personal productivity. If he would be involved in any productivity, he would have to go to the state, farming and whatever, so that the food that is produced is recycled back for the feeding of his colleagues and himself. So the matter is, murderers, you murder somebody today, the customary courts will say this person has killed this person and he is fit to pay 51 or 50 cows, and then after tomorrow you are on the streets. That make it easy for you to think again of murdering anybody else. And that is enough as an evidence and proof to those who have not done that yet to do it, because after all, it doesn't cost anything besides the cows that the clan can collect. So while I do not encourage killing of people extrajudicially, I would encourage that if Lake State can locally make prisons that are hard to break and guarded by wardens of high value to keep those criminals for as long as their terms of sentences are served. Also, let us not encourage this idea of blood compensation. It is actually contributing negatively, because one time on phone somebody called me and he just told me, Chayin Sunday, regardless of whether you are educated or not, I can kill you and our clan can raise 50 cows. See, if somebody would say that one, what does it mean? It means the compensation of blood at the cost of 50 cows is no longer significant, and it is not a compelling force to restrain anybody from harming somebody. While the lawmakers have been elected to the parliament, let them think outside the box. And always, the goodness of law is that it should protect all and punish all on equal measure. I have also seen these leaders, some of them have become friends of criminals that have killed people. They kill relatives and then run and take abode in the house of a leader. There was a quotation that I published a few days ago. I do not know that quotation is valid for the leaders of today. The quotation, let me go to it quickly so that I can share it with the audience. The got it from Ben Uzel. Ben Uzel is an Israeli general who once worked for Mossad, and he helped the Anyanya One achieve its objective. And he has mentioned it in one of his interviews that what is true leadership, not leadership, true leadership. A true leadership is the person on top affects the entire system. The moment he becomes corrupt, the system becomes corrupt too. His subordinates are affected. He can no longer criticize them, and he has forfeited his moral authority. Every leader is meant to be an inspiration. We need these leaders to be inspiring us. They don't need to be corrupt. I know very well people are tempted with ease. Some people have bribed themselves their way out from the cells after they have committed serious crimes. Others, because they are related to one or two leaders, they begin to misbehave and harm others just because their relatives are leaders. After all, what will happen to them? All these are enough as contributors to the failure of law in our country. As I always say, laws of South Sudan are actually not very bad if they were to be put in place non-selectively. But they become bad simply because they are implemented selectively. The implementing agent does always the selection in what favors them and omit every other thing, and thus rendering the law negative when it is supposed to be that effective. Thirdly, and that has been something that is wanting from those other governments, of Lakes State, is that we have a redundant force. The so-called Division 6 has been divided and scattered around Lakes and Western Equatoria. There is a brigade in Yirul, there is another one in Rubek, and elsewhere. But the conflict will ensue, and the government becomes so poor, like the government recently of Lake State, that could not afford 20 liters of fuel to run to the scene of the conflict with at least a significant force that would avert the danger that comes as a consequence. Where does this come from? Of course, it comes from the corruption. The state would have at least resources enough to handle the security if it cannot penetrate to the development stage. Why allow our people to butcher themselves. While our societies are made in such a way that they fear danger, and especially what claims their lives and resources, they begin to obey the jungle laws. While I don't encourage the jungle laws, let all the stakeholders, including the enforcers of the human rights, come down and make a feasibility study and ensure a direction is taken, not just blame games. I can't just sit and make reports when I have not gone deeper to understand why the existing laws are not applicable. Is it the societal setup? Is it their culture? Is it that these laws are not irrelevant with their situation? Is it something supernatural? All these need to be asked so that an answer is found and then utilized well. If somebody is interested in killing people frequently, why would that person live? I don't permit death, but he is the permit of death by killing others. So, Brother Madit, I believe I have jumped into this topic
Yes.
because of all the hardships I'm getting from it. But I feel good that at least I am saying something about South Sudan.
Thank you. Yeah,
Even if
you
it is
did.
bad or good, I feel like I should contribute by saying that South Sudanese must not always die because they are not obeying their laws. If there is a law they obey, give it to them.
Yes, they will obey it. So, yeah, thank you, Brother Sunday. So you mentioned a lot. You covered a lot about the UNMISS. So about the law and the rule. So this is the thing that our people need to know in Lakes State and South Sudan and armed. So I know we have other 2 or 3 topics we want to cover. And I know it's late in Nairobi, but I want to, this number 2 question, agenda number 2, we need to talk about, and then after that, and then we will call it the day, and then we can do another show for the number 3 and number 4 for another show another day. But let me switch my question regarding from UNMISS and to politics of South Sudan. As you a young politician, I know that you were a former speaker, a spokesperson of SEP, was Paul Malong, Paul Malong. So recently, I interviewed one of the former spokesperson, Chol Duang. So I would like you to, my question that I asked Chol Duang, and the same question I will ask you as a former spokesperson, what is going on in SEP? Why the people are resigning? As you are a former, do you know what's going on in SEP? Why people are resigning?
Well, I am the leader of SAP Progressive, and I do not know whether I will be very knowledgeable about what is happening in SAP of General Paul Malongawan after I have left. Currently, it is an entity struggling by itself, and my group and I are entity struggling for ourselves, all in the interest of changing the trajectory of things in the Republic of South Sudan. That is the claim we made, and that we are persistently pursuing until such time that when a change is truly achieved. While we mention the leaders of the day, with due respect, we still have the guts to tell them that they are not doing the right thing in the country. and which is true because something right is not happening. And that is the foundation of our opposition, basing on the principle that if something is to be done well, do it yourself. That is the challenge we have undertaken, and we want to change the South Sudan. When I was with General Paul Malong as part of South Sudan United Front, there was big euphoria. There was happiness everywhere. And we were joined by big and small categories of South Sudanese. But people opted to leave simply because they have seen no progress in a number of ways. One is the management of the cadres itself. And second is lack of defined direction. It's lack of defined direction. If you happen to call General Paul Malong today and ask him about the vision of the movement he is leading, you will not get anything. Simply because he will tell you he has conflict with Kir today, tomorrow. There's a Kolkor who caused this conflict. I was accused when I was not guilty. I have been mistreated like this and that. All those are personal. They do not project the meaning of movement. We know very well, as we emanated from the Sudan's People Liberation Movement under the stewardship of Dr. John Garang Damabior, even if there was mixed ideology, there was always a vision, the New Sudan vision. And there was a strong chain of command and political chain.
Sunday John, can you check your audio? Can you put your earphone on? There's an echo sound coming out from your end. Yeah, okay. People are complaining. I thought that it was my end, but it's not my end. I have muted myself.
Okay. That way, good? Yes,
now it's good, yes.
Okay, although power will go again, we will try jumping here and there. Okay. The SAP under General Paul Malong was first established without structures, on hopes that people that he think would lead this up to the promised land with him have not yet come. And then the leadership was made up of him and myself as the spokesperson, which was not allowing the cadres to exercise their capacities or their abilities in the interest of the movement. We embark with Ustaz Luis and Ahmadud Kwendi to put the basic documentations, but the chairman himself would be the one to criticize people. Generally speaking, people have left and left and left simply because they do not see any defined goal that would be pursued and the mechanisms with which it would be pursued. If you look at it keenly, it was just a pop-up matter that I have a movement here and then got called to peace talks and then absorbed back to Juba and returned to the position that I left or what. That was the main aim. And so the army that was to be established was commanded by proxy. General Malong was the commander-in-chief, and there are generals senior in the army, but he asked people like Makwaj, who was an LT colonel, people now to command the major generals. That is not applicable anywhere in the world. And the commanders got frustrated and they failed to effect the mobilization work. And the few that went there were misdirected. Roughly 400 troops directed to go to South Sudan and capture it. And they all got destroyed. with plenty of them now in prison. Then the army died fully. And then now remain the political wing. Some of us who knows, at least who at least have a little bit of the knowledge of the workings that are happening around the region and the globe, decided to irritate for at least togetherness in terms of alliance, so that there is a compaction and voice, which happened, but General Malong destroyed because of the infiltration. And the biggest factor, as I have mentioned to you, there is nothing I did wrong in SAP. I was only a victim of conspiracies. When you see a group conspire and you have seen what they have written in the person of Dixon on that day, that they work so hard to ensure Sunday is removed so that they can bring in somebody like Chol Duang or Nyamai to work according to their interest. First of all, I was not allowing the information to go to any direction. This is referred to as trust and custodianship. But these people around Malong would want to send this information to the security for their various reasons. I objected to that, and I was seen as an obstacle. The information they could get is to sit around Malong and play cards with him, and then make him talk by either overly praising him or stimulating him from their point of angle, and then he will talk to them. That is not written, it is verbal. If they can now go and compose it, it's up to them. Then now they devise a new strategy. They should bring in a person of their own that would follow the suit as they extract information from SAP to the other side. And this is the time they brought in Chol Duang. When Chol Duang joined SAP, just in 3 days, I was approached by Makwaj that you should sit down with the chairman and assign Chol Duang as your deputy. I said, why? We have people who joined SAP as far as 2018, and they have no assignment. What has become of this young person that just came the other day? It's because he's a journalist. I said, no, this work is not journalism. We're not reporting to any newspaper or any magazine. I do not need a deputy. And if I need a deputy, we should select one from among those who came in 2018-19. And then we will go like that. That is the basis of sincerity and seniority. Somebody cannot just come in 3 days and we give him assignment. What do we know about him? Makwaj irritated, and he made circles and circles. I knew Chol Duang was not coming to serve the interests of SAP. First of all, he's a merely trainee news anchor. Which education will he bring to SAP? Where did he go to school? A second school leaver and a downtown college attendee with a certificate that make noise in the names of journalism? That is fake. I have been to the media house as far as 2003. We have explored the media entity in South Sudan and beyond with Alfred Taban Logune, Nial Bola Ken, the likes of John Pedangong, and the big teacher in the person of Chu China, the Victor Lugala, the late Edward Ladu Terso, the likes of Moiga, Anduru Korokoto, and the other people like Albino Odeng, Albino Okeny, and Tabani Joseph, plus many other of the reporters that we train. That is the media where my interest has lied and that I have worked for. I've not worked in any government institution. So I know what type of a journalist this would be. Possibly a yellow one. There is what they call yellow journalism. He has no credentials. And in South Sudan, You can be employed in an institution. Even if you have not gone to school, you can be given an assignment of a graduate, which is always wrong. If it comes to the South Sudan TV, in 2007, we were actually handling it at the level of the census development in coordination with somebody called Edward Ladu Terso, the ones who author a column called I Just Cannot Understand. So I objected to Chol Duang on those bases, and knowing that he was coming to spy. But now the matter was taken from me to General Malong. And General Malong called me, and we sat, two of us, and he ordered that I should go and drop an appointment letter for Chol Duang as my assistant. And I told him, look, General, we have people that have come from 2018 to 19. What has become of Chol Duang that he comes 3 days ago and we are giving him an assignment today, more so in my docket. As an honest person, I do not want my docket to be the dead center. What I will do is I will resign so that the docket remains empty. We appoint Chol to it, and then I get another one, or just remain as a mere member. Because this position of spokesmanship of the movement is not the lucrative force. There are bigger positions as that one of Secretary General that has also been given to another man who does not go to school. But people are given those positions based on gossiping. So I told him I made this position look like it is good, but it's not good. What is in it? All of us are members. We come to you, we sit down every day. You playing cards, the rest sitting on the chairs, nothing being done. So I told General, let me resign so that I create a space for him. But two of us in it together, the work will get messed up and we will be held accountable together. So I cannot share a position with a spy. I told General like this. So he left it like that. And then they eventually went for their conspiracies. And they went for their conspiracies. They brought in Sister Nyamach after we have dragged ourselves down. When Malong opted to say he is suspending me on conspiracies, I told him, no, I am a partaker. I helped build this up. So if we are to leave it, I will take a portion that belongs to me, which I did, and I am happy where I am. He remains. The group went, including the Berma Kwaj, who Malong was trusting that he is somebody who has worked with me for 27 years. I trust him. And when Makwaj was actually working for the downfall of the movement, including the destruction of the army and killing of very innocent young people that I love, the likes, I don't know, I don't need to say his name now. I would be causing another unnecessary commotion.
Yeah, don't mention names.
All this happened. I was not happy until when everything was offhand. Now, they left, leaving him. He recruits new one to give himself an image of having people. Tomorrow, they left. Come in, Chol Duang. What did he tell you he left about? Chol Duang was having one, he wanted to gain a rebel status because there was young leadership training that he attended in US, and he found US is a very lucrative place. So 3 days were not enough. If he would say that government of South Sudan wants to kill me because I am a rebel, he will get an asylum. That was his primary goal. But it didn't work. Okay? So he resorted now to his role of spying. And then with mismanagement, he got infuriated and he left. I may not tell exactly the involvement of 1, 2, 3 things, but the bottom line is going to Rome is a big factor. It caused people around Malong to fight you. Okay? When I was going for negotiations in Rome, it was like heaven was falling. It was a point of jealousy. And there are people who trade with those in diaspora. I will select you to go to Rome. So and so will remain. And then you are sent $100 or $200. And this is the work of a minister of finance. Then he will go later on. I am removing Sunday. There is nothing much I do there. More so, I negotiate or draft papers. Nothing more. So let me remain. If you will do the interest of our movement, is okay. But here they fight over it. Now, when General Malong was going there, he knows SAP is a national entity, assuming there are Nuer supposed, there are Equatorians supposed. But it is always Dinka from one section that go there. Where is the national outlook? Lualedao is from our will, Malong is from our will. So and so, Duang is from our will. Then I will go there as a secretary and a security that carry the back of the chairman. That is it. What is it that we will bring home? These things contribute to the breakdown. See? At the same time, the management is completely not there. Management is all about communication. The principles of management, I am an MBA student at my last semester. You know the functions of management is planning, organizing, staffing, and all those. General is not doing them. He doesn't even communicate with his secretaries. I believe all those who came with euphoria will hear, even that Gordon boy that came the other day, that they initially betrayed before he could be mistreated by the government, will go, because I know we will not be communicating with him. Okay? All in all, I would want to say that Chol Duang has left SAP because of personal motives, but these motives are actually informed by the fact that General Paul Malong is not sensitive to the matters of the movement. His statement to all members is, nobody is a property of somebody. It is an open surface. You have to manage human resource. That is acceptable. Human resources are properties of an organization.
So I have one of the sub members watching you right now, Madud. He's saying that you will apologize to General Malong and you will return back to serve as a member. So what do you say about that? So
if somebody, what have I done that I should apologize? It is me who has been wrong. People should apologize to me for the sake of apology. What is it that I need from Malong that I should go back to him again? To be mismanaged? No, I am managing my faction of SAP independently and adequately. From the time SAP was formed in Nairobi, to date I am here, just like Malong. I have not moved right or left.
Your fraction, your party now, you say progressive, self-progressive. So is it, did you join negotiation team with the government, your team, or you just, you still stay there? You have not joined any SOMA 1 or SOMA 2?
First of all, we have mentioned many times that we are together with SOMA. Whether with announcement or without announcement. Whether with announcement or without announcement. That is a bottom line. Number two, we don't form movements so that we go for negotiations.
No, you say, okay.
We form them to advance the agenda of struggle.
Okay,
but in this session, I was in Rome. I was in Rome last month before those of Malong could go.
Okay. So we SOMA.
Of course, that one of Malong is not SOMA. It's just SAP in union with Pagan. It's just it's not SAP. SAP is the other one. I mean, it's not SOMA. SOMA is the other one. These claims are just claims for the sake of them.
But but SOMA 1, I mean SOMA Malong, General Malong and General Pagan, they met with the government last couple of weeks ago in Rome.
I was in Rome just a week before.
You were in Rome?
Yes, I was in Rome a week before them.
Okay.
So it's not an issue of a contest to go to Rome. It is it is the laid down procedures and and the best mechanisms to change the trajectory of South Sudan. You have to have a vision and mission. That is more important than going to Rome.
But the
Because
Soma, that's the Soma.
if you go to Rome from 2000 and 19 December and till 2021, and you are only handling the cessation of hostilities, then that is something else. Number two, General Malong and Pagan should have just been straightforward to accept to negotiate on the right terms without beating around the bush. They are saying they are being incorporated into the citizen to be represented by who? Where are their armies? This is self-deception. You cannot waste time on things that are not important to you. Their objective is to go to Juba. They should just tell Kir that we need to go to Juba. What is it that they are negotiating? Root causes of what? The true people who have an agenda are the true Soma. The true Soma under NAS, under UDRM, under NDMPF, and also SSNMC. Because they have a call, and they have a written point, and they have a cause, and they are struggling for change in the country, as compared to somebody who is interested in return to Juba but is not getting ways, so he's circling right and left for no good reason. Today they just would lie. Our army was attacked here. Which army? Where is it? Well, there's no army. There is no reason for citizen workshop, for citizen for citizen this, to achieve what? What if the international community asks them tomorrow that we are now coming for the inspection, take us to your army headquarters to show us your standing troops? What will they say? All nonsense. They will say nothing. So they should go straight to the point that we need to go to Juba. Short as that. That is the factor. And leave us here in peace so that we can be able to focus without being moved right and left like they threaten people. They threaten people on their lives. So and so you will get lost. When you say this one, we have chosen to struggle against this government. And if you have time to kill the colleagues in the bush and you don't kill the government, it's up to you.
So so you said that you now
let that person ask me again another question. I told them the other time I don't need to talk about the sub of Malong, but they always like asking me questions. I will talk. Even today I will talk in length.
Okay, so let me ask you about that question about the sub that you joined, sub of Thomas Shirilo.
It's not. It's Soma.
Soma, I mean Soma. Sorry, Soma one to Thomas Shirilo. So they, so this group too, they are struggling too with their political issues. So they are breaking away now. There's a group that within those team that they are not getting along. Also, they walk away on top a couple of months ago.
Well, it is true. You know, with all the liberation struggles, it is not always like a honeymoon. There are circumstances that affect people in the middle. Others are swayed due to their various reasons. And it becomes a non-issue if people talk so much about that. And if we go back to the history of the liberation struggle, the SPLM, SPLA, you have seen there were people who branched, including the founder, the ones who shot the first bullet, Corvino Kwanyinbol. And he left for his own reasons. You know, people like Arokton Arok, he left for his own reasons. William Nguyen Bany, Riek Machar Teng, Lama Kola Jawin, plus many others. All in all, people have differed in the ideology. They either split and form their factions like we did with Malong and continue the struggle in our own lines, or get absorbed into the system of the government. And the struggle does not stop there. I have not seen any impact that is negative on NAS or any other faction of the Soma. I have only seen the weak ones are getting rid of themselves, independent of any influence from within. Because Thomas has done nothing wrong to the cadres. The same thing. And if people have differed in ideology, like what Dr. Lako did with Gerald Thomas, they are still struggling in their own ways. It's just a matter of you pursuing the cause. But the interest is we need to change the trajectory of our country and project it towards the right orientation. And this has to start by addressing the root causes of the problem. And if the root causes have been addressed, then it would be easy for peace to be enjoyed by the citizen. And with the peace comes the developmental aspects.
Is it be so hard for the opposition that they are so divided? How can they would bring changes in South Sudan while they are not unified each other?
I am agreeing with you on that one. The current opposition is completely polarized in the sense that the defined agenda is the factor that is underlying everything. Several of the opposition's group are having only personal interest that they need to advance. And that become the basis of them being here in the bush. So the requirements for the opposition or for the revolution to succeed are in place in South Sudan. And they are not being utilized by the oppositions because one, some oppositions have narrow agenda. The agenda can be just to promote the clan's desires. Some are promoting personal or family desires. And therefore, oppositions of that nature cannot achieve any significant goal simply because it has no direction that can woo the public support and that can make them create an impact. Second to this, there is no fertile ground outside the country that the oppositions would exploit adequately. If you see, the mass is already frustrated. South Sudanese are frustrated. The elites in the country are very dissenting. And then there are no unifying motivations. And then there are severe crises that would even paralyze the system. If we were to be having one voice and a strong ground, we will be able to create an impact by allowing the citizens of South Sudan that have not gotten salaries for months and that have seen their loved one dying because of incurable diseases go against the system. But despite the fertility of the ground, there is no good challenger. And I can assure you, the oppositions here are not creating positive impact because they do not put themselves in one place. And you would have seen this happening early in 2013 when Riek Machar made mass exodus of the army that was estimated to be more than 70%. He has to call for the release of the G10. And the G10 were released only to tell Riek, we don't have to unite with you, thinking the West will support them. The West is not supporting any opposition as we are speaking, but we are making the case to be heard. We should be heard, even if we are not being supported, so that our country is changed to the right direction. So the opposition is divided simply because everybody wants to be a leader, and people fight because of leadership and the denigration thereafter. When General Malong was part of Soma, his inner feelings were he should lead Soma because he comes from the majority, he has the abilities, yet he does not reflect on the endowments that he cannot manage up, the small one, properly. And then he wants that one. He could not allow Pagan because he called him a man from minorities, could not allow Oyai on the same reason. Thomas Cirillo is a tribalist. All these are the names who would reflect. And I do not know, maybe the rest are also saying the same in their own way. Where will you get a unification? That is a factor. So the oppositions remain as voices of the concern. Yes, there are very crude matters that they don't define, but there are also right matters that they are defining. But for the case of the Soma, at least there is a glimpse of hope because they don't have the bigger capacity to remove the government tomorrow but they have a right reason to call for change.
Yeah. Thank you. Another things, I want to touch on it is, like, as you know, that General Thomas Rilo, General Pagan, General Malong, and General Wiyai. So we know them very well. They are well known during our movement struggling. They contribute a lot. They are the one who they fought with the northern government for 21 years. And due to the political differences with President Salva Kiir, that's why they move out from the Juba, leave their position, and they create their own movement or their own parties. So what can you the young politician who are uprising, Dr. Sunday John, what can you tell this, the oldest politician like General Thomas, Pagan, General Malong, General Wiyai? What can you tell them that, okay, this is the time for you guys to go home, period of time, and leave us, we young generation, young politicians take over. I'm talking about, this question is going toward opposition camp, because they are divided, and this division is coming from the leaders or coming from the youngest who follow them. So
well, the factor is the question of incapable opposition is very much associated with a number of reasons. One is those people that you have mentioned have actually done the best. General Malong, General Wiyai, Honorable Pagana Mom, General Thomas Chirilo have commanded the SPLA effectively to the satisfaction of South Sudanese and to finally achieving the goal that is the independence of our country. That credit is part of our history. It's never going away, and I will not one day lie to take that credit away from them. Honesty serves a good purpose. These people have been there for us. But like everything, they have come up with the leadership after John Garang died, and the leadership that they have come up with has never been as effective as the leadership that was headed by John Garang. And that is why some people would conclude that while John Garang was in the bush leading a very successful liberation cause, he was incapable. Some people would conclude he was incapable of developing strategic leaders that will take off later. There are war cadres. But later on, they fought among themselves and they degenerated to today where they are. First of all, some of them in the opposition here have not decided to come to foreign lands to oppose the government of the day. No, they have only been pushed at the brinks and they got no choice but to claim being opposition. That is one factor. Factor number two, there are people like Gerald Thomas that were working in the government. Gerald Thomas was not sacked. He was not removed from the government, like the exodus of 2013, July, that led to the dismissal of all the other ones, and including the recent one, including the removal of Malong from the chieftaincy of the army. Gerald was there. Gerald Thomas was there as a deputy chief. But he opted to leave that position and he's everything and then come out. This is a person that needs to be questioned as to why he is here. And if answers were to be given, he has a reason. There is a reason and there is a goal to pursue. And that goal is, of course, the revival of the state that we aspire to. A South Sudan that accepts all the communities, regardless of whether they are minorities or majorities, that accept the rule of law, that accept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are good for the country, including the constitutional matters. And so General Malong would today be considered as somebody who rebelled simply because of position. Gerald Pagan and Uyai were airlifted by the Kenyan authorities when they were actually imprisoned on cases of treason, which cannot be proven beyond reasonable doubt, and that were dismissed later on. All in all, it becomes a matter of fact now that they are sluggish in the sense that South Sudanese themselves that are inside the country do not want to wage a revolution, simply because they are either contented with the status quo, or they are tired of war, or they do not want to fight themselves for that matter. Second to this, the opposition themselves have the greed. They have known what South Sudan is and the definition of it, including the resources therein. So everybody projects himself that he wants to lead an opposition movement. And if he is the head of the opposition, automatically he would become the president tomorrow, which I see is that aspect. We are not supposed to discuss the opposition this much. We will only be contributing negatively towards the cause of the opposition. All in all, these parties that are in the bush have called for one thing: a change in the country. If they are successful or not successful, that is not the matter. The matter is we want to change South Sudan. And people are asking about 1, 2, 3 strategies. Strategies are always laid out by a political party that is interested in wooing the support of the public during the election time. But our number one strategy now is to ensure South Sudan become a better place for all. And by all means it should. This is what we call for. And so if you tell me to evaluate each of these individuals singly, I will only be hurting them. And I'm not interested in evaluating them singly, because I am not that perfect that I should be given the right to evaluate others. But the truth remains, the ideologies are not the same, and the causes are not the same. Some of us here are interested in going to Juba, but there is no way. For example, the case of General Malong. Trying right and left, but it's not happening because he has nothing to fight for inside here. That is the factor. So
okay,
my power is again going away, but I can allow you to ask.
Okay, if your power is we will come up with wrap up. Before we leave, I have a few questions here. Some of the audience watching are asking you. The first question is coming from Justin. Justin is asking you, what will you do after the terror on your life? Do you feel safe?
Well, I am not safe, but I am not afraid. I am not safe as a matter of truth, because all the oppositions are either parts of the armed rebellion, and by the laws of South Sudan, we have committed treason. And on reason aspect, few of our colleagues have been killed, even abroad in East Africa here. That is a big matter. You have seen the abduction of our colleagues from Kenya. Then those who were with Dr. Riek Machar, including James Gadet Dak, and those who were banished fully. Just this year, somebody was killed in Uganda, and is part of our opposition. Mine become worse simply because I have enemies inside opposition, like General Malong and his boys, that threaten my life. Given the statement of Judith that Nairobi is too small, it will not accommodate all of us. That is a big threat, and they can do anything, because they have tried to kill some of our colleagues by conniving with the security agencies in Khartoum. But Justin knows me. We were boys. He is my brother, just like older brother, at a smaller gap, but one generation. I am not a coward. And when I joined the rebellion, I joined with acceptance of all the consequences that comes thereafter. So I'm not going to be afraid, but I am not safe. Yes, I have traveled to Europe, but I go there for a cause. I am not ready to run away from South Sudan. The much I have run is to Kenya. I do not want to migrate after independence. I have to be part of South Sudan. And I don't want to make up stories also. I've seen people making stories that they were missed by a car or this. Up to now, nobody attempted to attack me, but the talks are not stopped for me, whether by the government back home or by people like Malong. But no fear. I have joined the liberation cause until a right solution is achieved.
All right, thank you. And our next question, I think Marwal is asking you, Dr. Sunday John, what are your strategy in achieving your political title and objective so far? How would you advise the General Malong?
My strategies are pertinent. SUP is progressive. Together with my team, until this hour, we have chosen non-violent strategy. Together with my team, we have chosen to advance our agenda through dialogue. Together with my team, we have agreed that our principles are we need a tangible change from South Sudan, and this will come from the principles of change itself. And Malwal Chot, who has asked me this question, has heard my talks elsewhere on several counts. So I wouldn't dwell on that because I will tell him the objectives in a certain setup, because there are not very many, but the overall objective is to make South Sudan better than now for all of us South Sudanese, given the opportunity.
Yeah, the next question is coming from Carbino. Carbino is asking you, seeing you residential, have General Malong contact you face to face? Or
First
he
of all,
may be interested in bringing you back to the party?
First of all, there are people who have contacted me on behalf of General Malong. There are people who have contacted me on behalf of General Malong. But I have ignored them because I know General Malong. First of all, he would be at wrong and he will not admit that I am wrong. That is his personality. Second to this, I was a victim of conspiracy. And I know why the conspiracies work to the level of bringing us on a loggerhead with Malong is simply because Malong believes in gossips that have no basis. Thirdly, I wouldn't go back to him because there is nothing I would do there. Just be sitting and playing cards. More so victimizing myself, because he will shift today from point A to point B, and there is no static point of contention that he would bring up. So he contacted me by proxy. He didn't contact me. First of all, he issued a letter that has not been addressed to anybody, that all those people who have left me, I have pardoned them, they should come back. He is the one who wronged people. Who has wronged him so that he pardons people? Under which basis? All of us are forcing the government. And who are you to pardon us when we have done nothing wrong? Is you who did something wrong. You connive with the criminals that have now gone to Juba after scattering everybody away from you. And you want to be apologized to for what? What is the offense? That is one. He wrote that letter. That letter was meant to be mine. Because of all those who differed with him, they went to Juba, and there would be no way he would write to them to return back from Juba to Nairobi. You can't rebel and rebel again. You will miss it. That is a factor. That is after he has known I did nothing wrong to him. That is that factor. But he is not also brave enough to acknowledge that he is wrong. It is also part of bravery. Bravery is not usually an issue of fighting. You can still be brave to say I am wrong. What is wrong with saying I am wrong? So he didn't say this in person, but some people have quoted me here and there. But I am good where I am. That is my response to Kerovino Iwanat.
Okay. The last question is coming from, so it's really from Kir Aleuding. So it's asking you, why did you see this from your professional position as a medical doctor and you decide to join the politics when we have so many people who need health care in South Sudan?
This is a very fierce question. Good enough. And I will answer him like this. Medicine is training is in my head. I agree with you. But with every person that rebel, there are triggers. There are triggers. One of the triggers for my rebellion and joining the politics of opposition is that the country has been mismanaged. And when I talk, because I have been defending the Sudan's People Liberation Army, simply because it is the wing of the SPLA that I joined. I went to Ethiopia, got trained, and then came back to our territories. And we always view the SPLM as the mother party. And I defended this SPLM from the time of John Garang with my pen and with also the involvement in all the matters that you people know during the liberation cause. And after independence, by the time Pagana Mong was arrested in Khartoum, I was also arrested and taken to Wadi Saidna in the security detention, simply because we are talking about the unity that is not being made attractive by the regime in Khartoum. And therefore, the South Sudanese will have the option to succeed and make their own independent country. This was what our advocacy was focused on when I was authoring a column called The Third Eye in Khartoum Monitor. So when I became the victim, then my dad was alive. I could not have issues. And then I was working as a media personnel and a medical student. Okay? I later on shifted to the University of Nairobi because I wanted to be a doctor that profiled efficiency and good medical practice. After I finished my medical education, I went briefly to India and I returned to South Sudan. The government that I was defending has not exactly threatened me, but I have seen the injustices that are happening. I put my pen down without supporting it again. And when I was silent, people from within my clan opted to connive with the system that did not agree to kill me, but that was monitoring my moves. And later on, they could not use the system to kill me. They reached to the unknown gunmen. Okay? And I was later on informed by an insider that my life is at risk and people are being killed. I didn't want to die because I want to use my skills to help South Sudanese. So I came to the political scenario as one. Number two, it is the political landscape that has destroyed the country. And always, if you do not talk, you will end up messing yourself by allowing the mediocres to rule you. And this is what has happened over time and again. And that is why people would want to kill me when I have done nothing wrong. And they are the supposed brothers that have eaten with me yesterday, but whose hands are full of blood simply because they want to eat more and more by selling their own kins and kids. This one, I have to create a political change. Thirdly, medical practice is on individual basis. That is called a curative medicine. I will be sitting down to treat sick people as a doctor. But the biggest sickness in the Republic of South Sudan is sickness associated with politics. Okay, people are hungry. If South Sudanese are hungry, you will not cure them from the diseases they are suffering from. Simply because, one, with hunger, people lose their immunity.
Your
when they
your
become
phone your phone is dying, I think, so it's going black.
I have put just let me finish this article.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
What is happening?
Okay, so thank you guys. I know I put in your question so that Dr. Sanajan can answer you. It seemed like his network is out, his phone is dead, it's out of battery. So I think we will call it a day. I don't know if he can come back, but I think his phone is out of power. So I will end the show here. So for those of you who want to share, I will not allow the link to share because this was just designed. This show was designed as an interview session, and I've been here for almost 3 hours, and I will not like to give people a chance to come back in. Okay, just because of
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me finish this.
Yeah, go,
Yeah. You know.
yeah, go ahead, finish that. But there's a good question
Yeah.
that coming. There are people say that they want to come in, but I. Okay, go ahead.
The biggest problem of South Sudan is more public health than curative problems, and this public health issue is associated with the decision making. If right decisions are not made, I will still remain with my qualifications inside South Sudan without helping anybody because there is no trust in the system, because it is flawed. Everybody in South Sudan, including a paramedic, is calling himself a doctor. There is no regulatory authority. There is no established system, and there is no public health sector that is working to give people the adequate health policies that are required in the country. And that is why you see people killing themselves with counterfeit medicine and all this. So I see that if I can use medical algorithm to handle political matters, it would be sufficient enough to cause a change in my country. Fourthly, it is not for the first time that a medical doctor has gone to political scenario or scene. The laws of the United States of America were made at the initial stages with a number of doctors sitting on the bench. And until today, the Senate of the United States is full of medical doctors. It is not an issue of where you can fit in. It is an issue of efficiency. What is it that our government is doing efficiently to help the South Sudanese? I have seen my colleagues in Juba Teaching Hospital doing nothing to help the sick people because of the deplorable circumstances they are in. A doctor has no standard and a reference point simply because there is nobody that has developed some guides for the doctor's work. Doctors are not treated as human. You can see some of colleagues are just being killed on the road. Doctors have no value in South Sudan, for your information. The more you are educated in South Sudan, the less valuable you become. That is a factor. And this is what people like me sees and say, let us restore this by joining these politics and change things to the good of the common citizen. If I happen to be part of the decision making, the decision I would make would help South Sudanese all. But if I sit down to make a decision on a case-by-case basis, I'll only be helping 10 to 20 patients that have come to my desk. Therefore, the bigger factor lies in the political equation. Our biggest issue is the governance. That is, and if you have been earmarked for a murder, it becomes something else, my brother. So your question is very good. I have not gone out of medical field. I am still there. I have also learned in other fields. That is a topic for another day. But the truth remains, we can cut across. You can even be a medical doctor yourself. If you re-enroll to a medical school, it will only require you to undergo training for 6 years and so. And for my case, I will go back to the practice. When you assure me that the country will return to normalcy, when you assure me that 90% of the dying people will not be from curable conditions because a health system that is working, that is efficient, will be established. So while we develop our career, let's have our country closer to our hearts. I know very well if I sit down with my scalpel, I can be able, like any other doctor, to survive anywhere in the world. Very possible. Good thing my degree is not in South Sudan, is with me. I can run to any direction. But why run and leaving the multitude of South Sudanese suffering without saying a word about them? I will not shoot South Sudanese, I'll not kill anybody, but I will tell the authorities that let us accept to change 1, 2, 3 things, at least for the good of our people. Where credit is due, it has to be given. I have mentioned time and again that the current leadership has outlived its usefulness. We don't describe them as bad ones, but they have been useful until they become not useful again. I wouldn't say useless, because nobody is useless, but they are no longer useful for the governance of the country in that matter. So, do you have a follow-up question? Have I not answered your point?
Yeah, you did. So, yeah, Majuk is asking you actually, and he's asking you to answer this. I pull it up. Majuk is saying that who will liberate opposition from opposition liberators?
Who
So,
will liberate the liberated opposition from opposition liberators? This question is multifaceted. I do not know who the liberated oppositions are, because they need to be liberated by the opposition liberators. If I would say he is, I don't know, meaning to say that those people that are governing the country are the liberated oppositions, and we in the bush becomes the opposition liberators, or what? Can he come back again with a question? Kindly, can you paraphrase, because it is difficult for me to interpret.
Okay, so you hear that, Majuk? So the question is a little bit understandable. So I think what I understand from his question, if I can elaborate a little bit, is about we talk a little bit about it, about the division within opposition. I think that's what he meant. So because they are fighting each other. So I think that's what his question meant. So like, for example, like IO now is divided now. There's the IO in Juba and then another IO in is still in the bush. And also my one is to my two. So I think that's what he meant. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I can assure him, with the several divisions, with incapacitation, still we will hit the ground and we will find the formula. Now, what blocks everything is the greed for power. Everybody is greedy for power. And you cannot be in the bush. Everybody is running this party and that party, directed toward one cause, but you are not getting united. That is the biggest aspect, if I can say. I have mentioned it before. The opposition may realize this as a mistake, and they'll have to come together and acknowledge that their unity is the basis of a formidable front to be staged. South Sudanese are actually interested in seeing change. But change does not come alone. It comes when there are stressors, those who will stress the system that needs to be changed. Already there is mass frustration, as I mentioned before, and the elites are dissenting. You would see people like Professor Jock saying the governance is not so good, and they will say 1 point and 2 and another one on that aspect. All in all, in the interest of the liberation struggle. But again, the the opposition is not attractive to the affected citizens, because if the affected citizen sees an opposition group with the interest to liberate, for example, Yirul, why would they follow me when my interest is only to liberate Yirul? What impact would me capturing Yirul put on their lives? That is the biggest factor. Until when the opposition sees that to change South Sudan, an overhaul of the system is the matter, it couldn't just be a generational exit, as others have said, but shouldn't it be generational interference? Can't we also enter and work and see the change? And we have to start by working like this. Laws of the country are flawed. They do not confer the governance that we want. They are not being respected because they are favoring a section or one individual, and therefore we change the law, and that becomes now a root cause of the problem. We need a constitution that is feasible for all the South Sudanese. And then we see roads are not being constructed. It's a developmental agenda. We see society has been torn to the core. What are the measures to be put in place so that we can accept and love one another, and so on and so forth. So if you see me touching here and there is a little bit of confusion. And the confusion is this. In most cases, the opposition has a desire to create change, but they lack the will to be together as one unit. And then the opposition becomes tribal. Okay? You see Malong going to Rome with 3 people from Awil and himself. You see, tomorrow somebody will go to Rome with somebody from his section. And all in all, the matter becomes sectional. And if we were to define the grand goal that we want to achieve as opposition, the betterment of South Sudan, so that South Sudanese can enjoy this, then it becomes something else. But where are the guts to acknowledge this? Thirdly, when SPLA was in the bush, there were vested interests. First of all, we were being oppressed by a society that claims to Islamize the society that is not Muslim. Then we have the sympathizers from the Christian faith. And also we were being oppressed on the issues of race, and that is becoming the reason for us being denied the development. Yet the resources come from our backyard. The well-wishers thought this was wrong, and they stood by us. And then we have the regional actors that were interested to ensure that these Africans that are being annihilated should be given the platform to champion for their rights if they have capability. And that is the basis of Mengistu Haile Mariam giving John Garang the opportunity to lead his men to the plains and the mountains of Ethiopia. And then there were actors that were interested in the sense that they will benefit if we become successful. All these quarters have learned a lesson from our previous actors when they could not honor their promises. And now it becomes nearly impossible for the opposition to be harmoniously in the region and with activities that are working. It becomes a new norm in the international arena. Also, toppling the government by force is no longer a functional aspect. But that does not take away the liberation movement from the surface of the earth, because the liberation movements are also like political parties, chambers of the opinion that can change the country for the good. So I do not have a single word that can summarize all this to one thing. But the single word that is available, for lack of better words now, is division. Opposition are highly divided, and they are not interested in coming to one front simply because some of them have very, very negative political strategies. Others have no one at all. And you see, the whole thing becomes something like that. And all in all, we need to revive this by thinking strategically and by creating an outlook. As we continue talking among ourselves, we will always be telling ourselves South Sudan is greater than our vested interests. Can we come together and challenge this regime that is making our people suffer? This is the question we will be asking from now onwards.
All righty. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Tanya John. I think we come to an end. I think so. This is the last question that we will start from here. So before I end up close up the show, you can put your last word, and then I will be calling today.
Thank you very much for this talk. Although we have been jumping from point A to point B, the whole thing is we are sharing on what we think would make South Sudan a better place, whether in opposition or in the media sector like yourself. The media has given us platform to share our views with the audience that are South Sudanese themselves. What we need in our country is not too much destruction. It is the salvage of what we already have so that we do not destroy it further. By continuing fighting here and there, we will not achieve much. And let us be genuine. The government who is trying to engage the opposition, whether the opposition inside or the ones outside, should accept the sincerity and do the implementation of the agreement in the letter and spirit. Let them put these differences that are preventing us from putting the country on the right path aside so that we cannot be channeling the resources that we have for the conflicts. Let also the government not think lightly about the people's life. The incidents in Western Equatoria is alarming. There is need for an urgent intervention. Whether the perpetrators are the IO elements or they are people who have stemmed from within the communities to destroy their fellow men in the interest of greed. Let them stop that conflict. The conflict in Western Equatoria is very bad. If there is something to be condemned on extrajudicial aspect, let it be that one, and not the governors that are trying to curb the security in their states. It is supposed to be those who are killing innocent women with their hands tied behind them, giving a very bad image. That is unbecoming. We should not be doing this as one people. We have to stop it. And the government has to intervene and imply the rule of law by bringing those culprits to book now as a matter of urgency. Let the United Mission in South Sudan also facilitate if there are gaps that the government cannot meet to rescue those people. At least if the matter is out of hand, let them establish a temporary camp for the concentration of those people that are being killed. Let people in Central Equatoria be at least given a chance to endure the impact of blood and not the consequences of gunfire. This is the basis of the cessation of hostilities that we have signed time and again and again. We have to accept that continuity of hostilities is only a destruction of human life and further draining the country of human resource that it requires, and at the same time fomenting in an erasable conflict. Let us see this as a positive thing. We should begin to think positively other than being negative all the time. Let there be sincerity. Let there be sincerity. I believe oppositions are not the reasons why the conflict is continuing. But if they are given insincere plans that they cannot define well, they will not be able to accept. And at the same time, the agreement that was enforced on people of South Sudan, as reflected in its inability to achieve the objective, is actually another reason why a conflict is getting brewed and is going up and up again. So I want to tell South Sudanese that always we should be positive when we are thinking. But the bottom line is the biggest contributor in these matters is the division of the societies, whether inside or outside. Let us create at least avenues of thinking positively towards one another. We shouldn't be always inclining to the angles of our sections. Let us be amicable. Let us be harmonious. Let us call for the rule of law to return to the country. This has to be done. This has to be done. And that is what the government should do to defeat the opposition. Not buying more ammunition and shooting them. Buying more ammunition and shooting the opposition means killing South Sudanese and depriving the rest of what to eat. Why is it always a good choice? The good choice is peaceful coexistence, because the resources that would be used for war would be better utilized. Somebody is asking my details. I won't give him on here, but he can inbox me so that I can know him.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I will talk to him. So he's Charlie Park. He had one of his media. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Sunday. So thank you. That will be the end of the show. I appreciate your coming to State, and you put a lot of wonderful perspective about UNMISS and politics, your side. So we appreciate you, and we will see you again that time. Have a wonderful night. I know it's late there in Kenya, so I will see you again. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for all our viewers who are watching, and we appreciate you for tuning in Lakes State Media. Thank you.
It's your boy Emmanuel, I give him that thing. Control Lakes State, Defection America. Banyi Duang, Control Lakes State, Defection America. Banyi Duang, Walk on the lake, Kankaro, Watana watching. Oga level lake, Gear, Pow, Garay Lake. Panda with Yay, Panchid America. Panya Dwalabano, Chingatonga Pandon, could you ever buy a check? Papu Panda Juru, Yapi. Panchir America, Panji Duang, Panapan Panta Lakes State.